Well, hello, welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. Okay, so between the rain I've been digging up these potatoes. You can see I've just got a few left over at that end there, but I've dug out these sort of 2 rows here and the starting of those other 3 rows. So I'll just show you what the potatoes are like. Now, this year are better than last year. It's not the best year for potatoes I've had, but they're a good size, but the quantity's not as high as it normally is. But you know, last year wasn't a very good year for potatoes because it just wasn't it was just too dry basically. There just wasn't enough rain to make them swell properly, so we had lots of small potatoes last year. Now this year I've got much fewer potatoes, but they are a good size. I've had no slug damage or anything as of yet, but obviously that's why I'm digging them out now, because as time goes on with this wet weather, the slugs are going to build up in the ground, and this is really when you need to get the potatoes out. But obviously I need to let this ground dry a bit now before I can get any more of these potatoes out, because it'll be, you know, too muddy to dig. So as soon as the ground dries I will start to dig the rest of the potatoes out, but I'll show you what I've got out so far. Okay, so these are the potatoes I've dug out so far. I have actually weighed them, but I'd imagine there's probably about 40 to 50 kilos of potatoes here. Obviously we have already eaten some already, but I'm getting some quite nice sort of sized ones for baking. And obviously I'm getting the sort of smaller ones as well. Now what I'll do is I'll sort these out, and I'll put these into the chicken food sacks, which are basically paper sacks. Don't put them into plastic sacks because obviously the potatoes will sweat, but they will over winter. So what I'll do is I get them out of the ground, I'll put them into these plastic containers and just keep turning them every couple of days, and then that basically dries the skins out. The skins harden as well, which will protect the potato over the winter. And then I'll sort out the larger ones from the smaller ones, and obviously the smaller ones, anything like kind of this size, will be used for chitting, and I'll basically plant them again next year. Any larger ones like this will be used for sort of roasting potatoes or whatever. And then obviously the larger ones like this will be used for baking and stuff like that. Now what I will also do is sort through, so any that I've caught with the fork, like this one you can see there, I've actually pronged that with the fork. I'll basically use that straight away, because obviously that's it, that bacteria has entered into the potato there, so I'll cut that end of the potato off and use the rest now, so that won't store. So I'll use those ones up first, and then the rest of them will basically, as soon as they're dry and there's no sort of marks on them or anything like that, so that's a good one for storing. This one's a good one for storing. I'll put all those into the sacks, keep them nice and dry, somewhere frost free if possible. Don't let them get too warm because obviously they'll start to chit again if you're not careful. But and then they'll store all over the winter, and they'll keep me going until probably March next year. Okay, quick update on the sweet peas. As you can see, they've almost finished now. We have had a really good show of sweet peas, and I've picked no end to have in the house this year, but as you can see the plants are now shutting down. So in the next few weeks what I'm going to be doing is collecting seeds from these. Now it has been raining, so they are wet at the moment, but what you need to do is take off the seed pods that are reasonably wide like that one. So you're looking at, you know, these ones that are flat, the seeds haven't properly sort of either pollinated or formed properly there. So what you want to do is take the ones that are nice and wide like that, so you know that the seeds are nice and full. Take those off in the next few weeks, and then let them dry out in the greenhouse. Then the pods will naturally open by themselves and curl up, and then all the little seed will be released. So put them into a tray with no holes in, and then they'll sort of give you plenty of seed for next year. Now, what you want to be doing, as I say, is select the seed pods that are about this wide. Don't go for sort of narrow ones like that, because they're not going to give you sort of seeds that are any good. So go for pods that are nice and wide like these, and then they'll be full of, in each pod there'll probably be about 8, 9, 10 seeds, which will obviously grow nicely next year. So I'll be picking, obviously because I've got a variety of colours here, what I'll be doing is picking a few pods off each of the plants. So I'll go along and take a few pods off each of the plants to ensure that I get some pink ones, some white ones, some purple ones, so we'll get a good sort of mix of colour for next year. But that's what the sweet peas look like at the moment. Okay, so as you can see, the onions have died back, and basically because the leaves have gone now, these aren't going to get any bigger. So what I'm going to do is lift them up out the ground, turn them upside down, and then dry them in the greenhouse. So what I'm going to do is take them out the ground, trying to damage the roots the least amount as possible. But I need to get them out the ground now, because with it being raining, what will happen is the bottom part of the onion will start to rot, and then the rot will go through the onion. So I'll get these up now, and I'll show what they look like when they're all in the greenhouse. Okay, so here are all the onions, and to be honest with you, it's a poor year again. I was expecting at least maybe 3 times this amount of onions, and what I've had to do is take off the outer couple of skins, because they were basically quite wet, and I didn't want fungus to start forming on the roots. I've had that before in the past, so these onions do look a bit smaller than they actually were, but I've taken off sort of 1 or 2 layers of sort of onion, if you like. A few that are looking a little bit dodgy I've put at the end there, and the rest of these I've basically cut the stalks down to about 4 inches, so that they'll dry, and I've shaken off as much as I can off the root. As I say, I don't normally do this, but I have taken off the outer couple of layers of onion skin, because I was concerned about them, the amount of water that was in them. And then the red ones are here. There's a few that are not too bad, but as I say, I have actually taken off the outer skins on quite a few. But overall, the onions aren't too bad. But I have had considerably better years than this in the past, and I put it down to there being a dry spring, and then we've had a really wet summer. So what you really need with onions is, as they're growing, you want the ground to be reasonably wet, so so they grow really quick. And then in the sort of the summer and the autumn, you want them to be sort of reasonably dry, otherwise you get sort of damage in that to them. But fingers crossed, these won't go rotten, and I'll be able to store them in about a month's time. I'll leave them upright like this till the roots have sort of dried off, and then I'll be able to store them. But that's what the onions look like for this year. Okay, so you can see the sunflowers are starting to die back now. Well, I'm not going to save the seed to grow more sunflowers next year, because these are a hybrid between the large giant ones and the multi-headed ones. So obviously last year they must have cross-pollinated, so I've got a kind of a hybrid between the two. What I do want to do is grow the large ones for the seed for the chickens and that. So this year what I'm going to do is take the heads off as normal, and I'm going to dry them and just feed them to the chickens. I've got some bought seed for next year, which are the giant ones again, but these should be the size of a dinner plate. As you can see, they're considerably smaller. But so what I'm going to do in the next few weeks, as soon as it's dried out, because we have had a lot of rain, is basically cut off the head at the back there, and then I can put that in the greenhouse just to dry off, and then these seeds here will release, and I can feed them to my chickens. You can either take the seed out and sort of feed them like that, or what I sometimes do as well is actually put the whole flower head in the chicken run, and they basically come along and pick out the seeds for themselves. But that's what the sunflowers sort of look like at the moment. There are still obviously some flowering, as these are the multi-headed ones. There's still some, as you can see at the end there, there's still some in flower. So I'll leave those on. I'll just take off the heads that have basically finished and dry them up ready for the chickens to have. Okay, quick update on the tomatoes. We are getting tomatoes ripening now, as you can see. There's one here, there's some over there as well. So I have picked probably about 1.5 kilos of tomatoes so far. I've not had any issues as of yet, apart from the one plant over here, which has sort of dampened off at the bottom, which has caused the plant to die. But apart from that, the tomatoes are doing really well. So these are the moneymaker tomatoes, and obviously we've got some golden sunrise yellow ones at the end there, which is pretty much the same plant, just a different colour. This is the Gardener's Delight tomato plant. Now, as up until now, we've only got a couple of little tomatoes on. These are the small sort of cherry tart tomatoes. And for some reason there's not been many sort of flowers on this plant as of yet. It's only in the last couple of weeks we've had these flowers starting to form on the plant, but it is starting to come now. I did sort of cut the plant down a little bit a few weeks ago, but apart from that I've not sort of trimmed it. I've just basically left it to grow. What I might do with these plants is to actually take them out to this greenhouse and put them into the other one where there's some more light, and hopefully that will encourage the plant to sort of create more flowers and more fruits. But I think it's possibly a little bit too dark in here for them. But that's what the Gardener's Delight tomato plants look like. Moving on to the grapes, as you can see, these are the bunches of grapes here, which are swelling quite nicely now. So there's a bunch here. There's a nice bunch over here which I left because that can sit on the shelf there. There's another little bunch here. But they are starting to swell up. So this rain that we've had recently has really allowed the grapevine to start to sort of swell the grapes up. So you can see another bunch here, along here as well. So there's some really nice bunches of grapes forming now. I've cut most of the grapes off, so I've basically got about 10 bunches of grapes along the vine. So basically I've got a load at this end. There's just one here as well, which is just starting to form, and then the others are at the other end. So I've tried to keep them away. I've tried to keep them at both ends of the vine. But as I say, they are starting to swell now, and I'll be picking these probably in about a month's time. Okay, so it's a bit windy today, so you'll have to excuse the sound quality. But the calendulas at the front of the allotment, as you can see, have just about finished. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these out because there's quite a few weeds, as you can see. This is actually Aztec broccoli that's self-seeded in there. But what I want to do is take off the seed pods now for two main reasons. One, so they don't seed everywhere and cause a because they're all in the path and everything this year. So what I want to do is try and sort of sow them so that they're much better distributed next year as opposed to being everywhere. And also what I want to do is try and save the seed for the other parts of the garden as well. So all you need to do at this time of the year, now you can take them when they're sort of green. So what I suggest you do, if you want to try and keep the variety of colours that I have, what you want to do is try and take the sort of the best or the biggest heads, I guess, off each one. If you take the heads off, it's these little those little bits there. Let's do that. So those are the actual seeds. That's what they look like. So if you take them off, they sort of break off inside the bucket there, and then all you need to do then is dry them out, and they kind of go this kind of grey colour when they're dry. As I say, all you need to do is sort of go up the row. Try your best to try and see this one here. That one's obviously a sort of multicoloured one, so I'll try and get a head off there, so I've got some of those next year. Now, if you leave them much longer than they are like this, so if you wait till they've all gone sort of grey, you'll find that the majority of them have already self-set themselves all over the floor. So this really is my last opportunity to try and get some seed, and also sort of pull the plants out before they kind of set everywhere. So even though there are still some flowers on, unfortunately I'll have to sacrifice them because otherwise I'm just going to end up with seed everywhere as I did last year. I've had them all in the potatoes as well this year. So even though they are a beautiful flower, you do find that they are quite prolific seeders, and this seed will go absolutely everywhere. So what you want to try and do is now you don't need lots of heads. Obviously, in each head you've probably got about 50 seeds. As you can see there, I've only picked off, as I've been talking, probably about five or six large heads, and there's a few small ones there. So you only need probably about a dozen heads to create this many flowers next year. But try and get the ones, that one's a little bit early. As you can see there, it hasn't quite formed properly. But if you try and get one that's more like, let's try and find a good one, like this one here. If you sort of rub them round in your hand and the seed starts to come apart like that, then you know that they're ready. You can pretty much tell by the shape of them that they're just about ready to be picked. And then all you need to do then is put them in a tray in your greenhouse or somewhere dry. They don't necessarily need to be in the light, but they need to be somewhere reasonably warm and dry. See, that's a nice pale yellow one, so I'll most certainly get some of those. Try and do it when it's dry. I know we've had quite a lot of rain recently, so these are a little bit wetter than I would like. If you try and get them when they're dry, then you're less likely to get mould and stuff on the seeds. But if you can still get them like this as long as you put them in the greenhouse and dry them out quickly. Otherwise you can get sort of mould or fungus forming on them, which will obviously stop the seeds from growing. So I'm just going to get a few more of those. As you can see now, just in the time that I've been speaking to you, there's got to be 300 or 400 seeds there quite easily. Just sort of rub them through your hand like that. The smaller the bits are, the better. They'll dry out a lot quicker in the greenhouse. And then spread them out on a tray, like an old baking tray or something like that, something with no holes in. And then they'll dry out quite nicely, and there'll be plenty of seed there for next year. Okay, so there's probably 1,000 or so seeds there. So I'll put them on a tray and then dry them out, and I'll show you what they look like in a couple of weeks' time. And all you need to do over the winter then is put them in a brown envelope and keep them somewhere sort of as dry as you can, and sort of keep them reasonably warm. And then in the garage or in the shed or something like that's fine, no problem at all if you get a frost. And then we'll be able to plant those out next year to get the next crop of calendulas. Okay, so quick update on the peppers. As you can see, they've really grown in the last few weeks. So they're now sort of about 18 inches tall, and they're all starting to put out sort of little flowers and fruits. This one here is the most advanced of them all. You can see these are the long sort of horn-shaped peppers. So this one's growing really well. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 peppers on there so far. There's a few more coming at the top. This one at the back here has had some flowers on it, but I've not got any. Oh, sorry, yes, there is one fruit just at the back there. And these smaller ones here have got flowers on, but not any peppers as of yet. So that's basically where we are. But these that got potted up the other day, you can see just the startings of some peppers coming. So you can see the ones at the back as well. There's just some just starting to come there. So I think I am going to get some peppers this year. The actual chili plants, which are these here, so these are the jalapenos. They don't seem to be growing particularly quickly at the moment, but as I say, all I can do is just basically keep watering them, keep fertilising them, and hopefully I'll get some peppers this year. But as soon as these ones grow a bit bigger, I will pot those up in the next few weeks to try and sort of spur them on a bit. But you can see that one at the back there as well. That's got some peppers coming at the top. So that's one of the sweet pepper varieties. That's what the peppers look like at the moment. Okay, so this is the first tunnel. Unfortunately, I've had a bit of a disaster with the last batch of broccoli. These were put in a couple of weeks ago, and as you can see, the leaves have been eaten by caterpillars. You can just see the damage that they've caused to these. Now, luckily, they've not affected the other calibris as of yet, but basically the ones that you can see there, they've literally stripped the plant down to stalks. Now, you can just about see one caterpillar here. That's it. So all I've done is gone along. Those are the actual caterpillars, so just put my finger through them. Now these are the caterpillars of the cabbage white butterfly, and unfortunately as soon as they get on there, you know, there's another one there. You can see that little black one in there. So basically all you need to do is just put your finger through and basically stop them from eating anymore. Now hopefully if you can get them early enough, you can see there's two on this leaf here. See there's one there. If you can kill them early enough, what you can actually do is the plant will actually recover from this. So as long as there's some leaves left on the plant, I mean I think that one at the back there, I think there's no chance that's going to recover. But these ones here, if I can just go through and put my finger through them and remove them off the plant, then I stand some chance of them actually recovering. Now the other thing you need to be concerned of as well is obviously they can transfer from this plant to the next one as well if they're close enough together. So what you need to do is check also any neighbouring plants. I see this one here, that's got two there as well, so you just want to squidge them so they don't go any further up the row. But they will go up a row of, particularly if the plants are close enough together so the leaves are touching, they will sort of go up and eat the way through the row if you're not careful. But so all I need to do now is obviously I've gone through these as best I can. You need to check them a couple of times. You see there's a green one there. So as they get older they turn like a green colour, so it's harder to see them really. But when they're young they're kind of like a dark, got black bits on them. Look under the leaves, that's where they typically are, particularly when it's been raining. They typically go underneath the leaves. But as they get older they will turn like a green colour like that. As you just see one there. But you want to get them off the plant because the longer they're on there the more damage they're going to cause, and they will literally strip a plant down to nothing. I mean if you look at this one, there's basically nothing left of this one. There's one sat there. But just go through and put your finger through any of them, and then hopefully that plant may well recover from that, believe it or not. But any of the plants that have been completely stripped, like this one here, obviously there's no chance of that. But what you do need to do is sort of go in and make sure that there's no caterpillars remaining, because they will go on to healthy plants. So you know, even if there's a plant like that where there's no leaves left, what you need to make sure of is there's no caterpillars on any of the plants, because they'll literally go through and they won't stop. They'll just completely shred anything that's in here that's a brassica. Obviously look at anything that's a brassica, so obviously I'll be looking along these kale plants as well, see if there's any damaged leaves, and then I'll be able to see if there's any on there straight away, and I'll get in there and pull them out. But the most organic way to deal with them, as I say, is just to put your finger through them. It's a little bit time consuming, it's not the nicest job, but I'd rather do that than put pesticide all over the plants, obviously, because that's not good for anybody. But unfortunately that's the problem I've had with the broccoli over the last week or so. So, I hope this episode was of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions you've got below, and I'll always get back to you. And I'll see you on the next episode of Jim's Little Garden.